Coming up in the Bahamas tonight, flights were grounded and problems mounted at the airport today. Ahead, the conflicting stories from air traffic controllers and irate passengers and airline operators. The million-dollar figure that is tourism officials forecasting a prosperous new year also ahead tonight. And the 2012 murder count starts early as a man is stabbed to death. Those stories and more straight ahead in the Bahamas tonight.
Covering the islands of the Bahamas, ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Good evening and welcome to the Bahamas Tonight, the National Report. I'm Keishla Adderley. Thanks for joining us. Topping the news tonight, there are conflicting reports about what the problem was, but hundreds of planes sat idle on the tarmac at the Lynden Pindling International Airport today. Others reportedly turned back to the airports they departed from, unable to land, and passengers and airline operators fumed at the hours-long delays. While it was widely believed that air traffic controllers were conducting a passive protest as industrial unrest persists, they deny that. LaDon Davis has more.
Today is one of the busiest travel days for major airlines here at the Lynden Pindling International Airport, but some challenges with the air traffic system has forced some of those airlines to taxi the runway for hours on end.
It's my understanding that there's a USA aircraft that is out there now for a little more than an hour, because I was concerned when I went into work and I saw the USA aircraft on taxiway India. On inquiring with the supervisor, they said that this aircraft is being held because there is no available gates. And I personally was in the tower just about 15 minutes ago, observed that the ramp is filled, and we have at least 3 airliners waiting for gate facility. In addition to that, the system is operating at its capacity. All air traffic controllers today who are on shift are at work. There is no relief in place.
With at least 20 air traffic controllers on rotation and a very high traffic volume, President of the Bahamas Traffic Controllers Union, Roscoe Papal, claims a simple thing as entering data that runs the radar system at the airport is an even greater issue that's forcing airline delays. So to facilitate airlines, Papal says they had to revert the runway and optimize the airport capacity. But when asked if this had anything to do with widespread speculations of an industrial strike, Papal says not necessarily.
The air traffic controllers, we had contact with the ministers and persons within the Civil Aviation Department. We were comfortable with the progress that we were making on our differences and had given our commitment. We have stepped down the work to road.
Now, when will the negotiation process be finalized? Papal says very shortly.
At this point, we expect to resume negotiations as the work year begin. But our conversation with the minister, the director of civil aviation, all our meetings over that period of confrontation, we are satisfied that we are making progress.
But Papal says he plans to sit with the minister days before to iron out any other kinks and to come up with what he terms an amicable solution to the satisfaction of all members. LaDon Davis, ZNS News.
Now, at least 2 airline operators told us they had trouble reaching air traffic controllers when they called to inquire about the delays today. And a Cuba-bound passenger told us she and fellow passengers came off their plane after a prolonged waiting time. Meantime, Nassau Airport Development Company officials confirm that there were delays at LPI 8 today due to 2 factors: congestion due to significant flight activity, including private aviation, and saturation of Miami airspace, resulting in a hold on traffic. They say every effort is being made by air traffic controllers to expedite flight arrivals and departures. Well, the aviation industry is about to experience a major overhaul thanks to a loan granted by the Inter-American Development Bank. But industry partners have some concerns. Arjunea Noel has more.
That IDB loan worth $50 million that the Bahamas received late last year is expected to modernize the aviation sector policy in the Bahamas. However, Sky Bahamas executive Randy Butler says he hopes the government's plan for the project will be worth our while.
When you look at what the government is proposing to do with the $50 million, and when you look on the website what IDB is saying the money for, they don't match for the most part. So at some point in time, we'll see those come together. But the industry, that $50 million, if it's spent or invested in a good way, I tell you, we'll be off the chain here in the Bahamas, and the industry will grow.
According to the IDB's website, the loan is intended to promote the development of safe, secure, and efficient air transport in the Bahamas in adherence with international standards. Butler hopes that the government will initiate dialogue from industry partners as the project progresses.
We know the industry better than anybody else, and I think to have us involved and not just invite us to a meeting where you've made a decision and you want us here or look at a paper that you've written. What about contributing and putting those papers and those projects together?
While the Ministry of Tourism has placed much emphasis on cruise passengers and are seeing successes in that area, Butler says that the attention must also be given to air arrival.
And IDB putting this money forward is going to help us to refocus on things like putting the radar in place, getting our regulation, helping with the civil aviation to become an authority, separating the powers of operator versus regulator, helping and putting proper regulation in place for air traffic, for airdrome certification, putting regulations in place for safety, and then just helping to put the support.
Junkanoo Ferguson, ZNS News.
Well, 2011 was a pretty good year for the country's #1 industry. Tourism Minister Vincent Vanderpool Wallace says the industry has made significant strides, but he says add some new initiatives and the numbers can only go up. Here's LaDon Davis.
It's been a pretty significant year for the country's #1 industry, despite a rather lingering economic recession that's not only hard-hitting here at home, but on the global market. While tourism figures for 2011 have not been officially released, Minister of Tourism and Aviation Vincent Vanderpool Wallace says for the third consecutive year, the Bahamas has exceeded its 5 million visitor mark, with cruise ship passengers leading the pack by a wider margin.
In fact, the numbers of people who come to the Bahamas on cruise ships who come to the Bahamas only, don't go to any other destination in the Caribbean, is on the order of about 70%, which is as good an indication of people buying a Bahamas vacation. Our air arrivals really we saw a 14% increase in November for Nassau Paradise Island in terms of hotel occupancies. We're seeing a similar increase, well, not a similar increase, we're seeing about 8% increase, we think, for the month of December. So the last 2 months of this year really are closing out quite strong. In fact, stronger than we ever expected. So we expected to be down maybe 3-4%.
It's just 2 days into the new year, and Vanderpool Wallace says the tourism outlook for January and February has already started on a positive note, but he admits that nothing good will come in the tourism sector without bumping into a few hiccups along the way.
We know we're going to be significantly better, barring any weather problems as we had last year. You'll have significantly better in January.
But just in case you're wondering where the majority of these visitors are coming from, Vincent Vanderpool Wallace says our neighbors to the north of us are the most prominent visitors to the Bahamas, followed by Canadians who are not only dominating but taking full advantage of travel deals.
Those numbers continue to grow. As I said earlier, very clearly the low-cost, high-quality way to access the Bahamas is by way of a cruise ship. I believe this number is correct, but the cruise ships coming to the Bahamas year to date, at least from one company, is 100%. Every single cabin is filled. And so the demand is very, very strong for cruises coming to the Bahamas. And you see the numbers on Bay Street, you see what is happening. And by the way, we are pretty sure this is true, although we haven't finalized it yet. This year will be the first year ever that we had 3 million cruise passengers come to Nassau.
But overall, Wallace says the future of tourism is looking bright. LaDon Davis, ZNS News.
Well, it's the kind of story no one wants to hear, especially at the start of a new year. Tonight, police are investigating the first murder of 2012. The victim, a man in his late 30s. According to police, the man was stabbed at St. Michael's Road, just off Prince Charles Drive, around 11:25 last night. When officers arrived at the scene, they met the man with multiple stab wounds to the body. Now, police are appealing to the public to help them try and bring the suspect or suspects to justice. If you have any information on this murder, police want you to call them at telephone numbers 919-322-3333, the Central Detective Unit at 502-9991, or Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS. Well, some breaking news into our news desk. Police are on the scene at this hour at Marshall Road, where they say the decomposed body of a man was discovered. Now, police believe the body washed ashore. The discovery was made just before 6 o'clock this evening. Police say they rushed to the scene after getting a tip from a member of the public. That investigation ongoing at this hour. Well, it's the biggest news of the day as far as some people are concerned. The Junkanoo results from this morning's New Year's Day Junkanoo parade are just in. It was a tight show as the first lap ended before 7 a.m. today. And the Saxons were looking to repeat their Boxing Day win. Well, I can tell you that did not happen. Here are the results. In 6th place in the A category, the Prodigal Sons. In 5th place, the Music Makers. In 4th place, the Roots Junkanoo Group. In 3rd place, the Saxon Superstars. In 2nd place, the One Family Junkanoo Group. And the winners of the 2012 New Year's Day Junkanoo Parade, the Valley Boys. Well, we'll have full details, all the points breakdown, and the winners in the B category group for you tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. Well, could an earlier Junkanoo start be in the future? The idea, based on the plan to end the parade earlier in the day, has been toyed with for years. We talked with JCNP Chairman Silbert Ferguson about the prospect and just how seriously they're taking it. Here's Carla Palmer.
A much earlier time to the start of Junkanoo could be one of the most singular and important changes taking place in the Junkanoo arena come next season. That's if Chairman of the Junkanoo Corporation, New Providence Limited, Silbert Ferguson, and others in support of change emerge with the overwhelming vote.
We have toyed around with it for the last 2-3 years. I think when we get to the drawing board at the end of January, one of the first things we attempt to do is what to do with the parades. They are very long. We will rush better in the night. Okay, when it gets hot, it gets very, very difficult to rush.
Who's stopping that decision from being made now?
The vote of the 64 members of the JCNP. Once that vote is done, the majority rules. And I think we will make that decision after the vote in February.
Ferguson feels that now is the perfect time to make the change. Are you in favor, first of all, of the 9 p.m. start?
Yeah, I'm in favor. As a matter of fact, we were in favor of trying to get our New Year's Day parade started at 10 p.m. because there's no midnight service for midnight this year, okay? And this is one of those rare occasions every 7 years where you get to have this extra day. And so we wanted to move our parades to 10 p.m. On the night of the 1st, but we had some difficulties with that because it's still a church night and we didn't want to ruffle any feathers.
Ferguson sees the proposed change as one of several, advancing the National Cultural Festival. He says the benefits will be significant, affecting to a great extent the overall size of each Junkanoo group.
It's competitive, and once it's competitive, everybody wants the edge. And we will continue to be like this until we make the decision that needs to be made. That we will start the parade at 9 p.m.
Once the vote takes place in February, the results will be made public. Carla Palmer, ZNS News.
Well, already people are expressing their views on the proposed change to the start time of Junkanoo. Attending this year's Junkanoo parade with his 2 grandchildren, Kirk Hall says he would embrace the change, but this one family participant, Tally Gibson, is adamantly opposed.
Earlier, you would be able to bring the kids out, they will enjoy it, and you don't have to early in the morning, you won't have to come out early in the morning to do it. It will allow them to see more laps, and at the same time too, it won't have to be over now. It's going to be in another hour and a half. It's going to over. That will bring us to about 11 o'clock. Because it's early in the morning, you have to wake them up early and get them out of their bed to come out here. I even think will be even safer.
I think the time that we normally go out, that's fine, because most times we have to be battling with costumes, struggling at the last minute, and these costumes takes a lot of time. What I think they should just continue 1 or 2 of the laps rather than doing 3 laps, because we do 2 laps on Bay and 1 on Shirley. Maybe if they just continue 1 or 2 of the laps, then that would help out.
Police warned troublemakers about bad behavior on Boxing Day and New Year's Day, but not everyone heeded. Director of the National Crime Prevention Office, Superintendent Stephen Dean, says some 14 people were arrested this New Year's morning.
You know, with this amount of crowd and, you know, when you looked at the amount of persons and the small amount of incidents, I think things went fairly good. You know, we just have to continue to warn people, and I think the responsibility have to go to the parents because these are young men. And all of them have parents, and parents have to sensitize them or accompany them to these events to ensure that they'll be of good behavior. Some of them are juveniles, a bulk of them.
Now, according to Dean, those arrested were between the ages of 14 and their late 20s.
I believe the parents just send them out to Junkanoo, just allow them to go. You know, some of these young persons we see just wandering about in groups at these at the Junkanoo Festival, they should be under care of some responsible adult. The police, I think, have done their part to ensure that there's safety at the Junkanoo parade, to ensure that persons remain safe, and that if we see any infractions, that we will deal with those particular infractions. But I think that is not a police problem when you begin to see the behavior of the young persons. That has to be done collectively. It comes straight down to the parents. The parents have to speak to their children, speak to them if they are sending them out to functions such as Junkanoo or any other event. They must teach them and must warn them of the consequences that will happen should they contravene the law.